Have you heard someone say that the Bible and science do not match? Yeah, this idea has been circulating for a long time. But what if I told you that science itself has confirmed several truths that have been written in Scripture for millennia? Does it seem unlikely? So get ready, because what you will discover today can completely change the way you see the relationship between faith and scientific knowledge. After all, how to explain that the Bible already mentioned the expansion of the universe before modern astronomers even theorize about it? Or did you describe the importance of hygiene and running water long before science proves your impact on health? And even more impressive, did biblical texts talk about invisible atoms, oceanography, and even dinosaurs? If this made you curious, keep watching, because the answers may surprise you. Get ready for a fascinating journey between scientific facts and biblical records that, far from contradicting themselves, are impressively complementing themselves. At the end of this video, you will see that the Bible not only contains spiritual knowledge, but it also reveals information that science took centuries to understand. Shall we start? The Bible already said something impressive about outer space long before modern science came to this conclusion. In the book of Job 26:7, it is written that God extends the north over emptiness and makes the earth float over nothing. That is, long before the telescopes reveal that our planet is suspended in space, without visible support, this information was already recorded. This contrasts with old beliefs that imagine the land supported by giant animals or columns. But how could such an old text have such precision without the astronomical knowledge we have today? If we think well, the idea of a floating land was inconceivable to ancient civilizations. But today we know that our planet actually orbits the sun in the midst of the cosmic vacuum. And this biblical detail is not isolated. Other excerpts suggest a surprising understanding of the functioning of the universe, such as the mention of the expansion of heaven, something that only in the 20th century has been confirmed by scientists. This leads us to question, is there much more knowledge in the Bible than we think? What if this is just one of the many examples in which the Bible anticipates scientific discoveries? What else could we find if we look carefully? Let's continue our journey to find out more surprising facts. Since ancient times, humanity believed only in what could see and play. But the Bible, in Hebrews 11:3, already stated that what one sees was not done of what is visible. Does that sound familiar? Because it should. Today we know that all matter is composed of atoms, microscopic particles invisible to the naked eye. But how could a text written thousands of years ago contain this notion? And science has only begun to understand the atomic structure in the 19th century. The discovery of atoms revolutionized our understanding of reality. Each object, each living being, even the air around us is formed by these tiny and invisible components. If the Bible has already suggested this idea for millennia, what else can it teach us? Are there other hidden scientific secrets in Scripture, just waiting to be recognized? What comes next may surprise you even more. Have you ever stopped to think that the oceans hide amazing secrets? Today we know that sea currents follow well-defined patterns, but it was only in the 19th century that science began to map these paths in the sea. Interestingly, this idea was already in the Bible. In Psalm 8:8, there is a direct reference to the varieties of the seas, something that intrigued Navy Matthew Morey. Inspired by this verse, he began research that led him to discover the patterns of the ocean currents, becoming the father of oceanography. This is no coincidence. The Bible already mentioned concepts about the oceans that were only discovered with modern technology. Think about it, how could such an old book contain such accurate information about the functioning of the waters? This shows us that science is often just confirming what was already written for centuries. What if even the seas reveals the wisdom of the Bible? What other mysteries may be hidden on their pages? Today we live surrounded by communication technology, radios, TVs, cell phones, and the internet. But did the idea of transmitting distance information already existed in the Bible? In the book of Job 38:35, God asks, "You can send lightning to follow your way and tell you. Here are we?" This passage may seem just poetic, but think about it, doesn't it look like a perfect description of the operation of radio waves? After all, they travel to the speed of light and carry messages that can be received and interpreted anywhere in the world. Science only discovered the existence of electromagnetic waves in the 19th century, with the experiments of James Clerk Maxwell and Heinrich Hertz. However, the Bible already suggested that the light could be sent and answer. This makes us reflect how many other knowledge were already there, hidden between the lines, waiting for humanity to have scientific maturity to understand them. And if the Bible has revealed something so surprising about communication, what else can it teach us? Everything in the universe is in constant wear and tear, from gigantic stars to small, everyday objects. Science calls this entropy the natural tendency of everything going to deteriorate over time. But guess what? The Bible was already talking about it long before modern physics. In Psalm 102:26, it is written, "They shall perish, but thou shalt remain, all shall wear out like a garment." This is a clear description of the second law of thermodynamics, which states that the energy available in the universe is gradually dissipating. If we stop to think, it makes perfect sense. Everything we know has a shelf life, bodies aging, materials rusting, stars collapses. But how could a book written thousands of years ago have this understanding without the support of modern science? Perhaps, instead of a simple religious text, the Bible contains scientific truths that we are still discovering. And if this is just one more example, what else can it reveal? Let's continue to see. Have you heard the expression, "there are no two equal snowflakes"? This fact, which today can be confirmed by advanced microscopes, has been in the Bible for millennia. In the book of Job 38:22, God asks, "Have you entered the snow deposits?" This reference to snow may seem simple, but when we look at its structure, we see something fascinating. Each snowflake has a unique design, formed by hexagonal crystals that never repeat themselves. How could such an old book imply something so accurate without technology to prove? Modern science demonstrates that the formation of a snowflake depends on numerous factors such as temperature, humidity, and atmospheric pressure, which ensures that each is different from the other. This shows that nature is in detail organized, and even the smallest of creations follows a precise pattern. But if even snowflakes reflect the grandeur of creation, imagine what we can find out by observing other aspects of nature. Let's continue exploring. For a long time, the oceans were a great mystery to humanity. Without technology to explore its depths, it was believed that the bottom of the sea was just a large submerged desert. But the Bible, in Job 38:16, already mentioned something surprising. Have you entertained to the sources of the sea or past the depths of the abyss? What would these sea sources be? Science only came to discover centuries after, at the bottom of the ocean, there are hot water springs gushing in the Earth's crust. These hydrothermal sources, discovered only 1977, are true hidden ecosystems, where amazing life forms survive without sunlight. But how could the Bible know of the existence of these underwater springs, if man could not even explore great depths at that time? Once again, we realize that biblical texts contain knowledge far ahead of their time. If even the ocean keeps secrets revealed by the Bible, what else do we have to find out? Dinosaurs are one of the greatest mysteries in Earth's history. Discovered by science only in recent centuries, these giants have inhabited our planet in a distant time. But did the Bible mention them? In the book of Job 40:15 and 19, there is an intriguing description of a creature called Behemoth, which had a tail as a cedar, powerful muscles, and bones as bronze tubes. This description does not fit any known animals today, but it remembers the dinosaurs a lot, especially the huge sauropod. Many believe that the Bible does not talk about dinosaurs because the word dinosaur was only created in 1842. However, Job's text describes a gigantic and imposing animal, unlike any modern creature. This raises an interesting question: have humans and dinosaurs coexist? Or are these records traces of an old knowledge about extinct creatures? This is one of the mysteries that challenge our perception of the past and make us look at the Bible with other eyes. Modern medical science teaches us that blood clotting is essential for wound healing. But did you know that the Bible already indicated the ideal time to perform circumcision long before this information was discovered? In Genesis 17:12, God commands the procedure to be done on the 8th day of the baby's life. Interestingly, science found that exactly on this day vitamin K and prothrombin, essential for blood clotting, reach their highest peak. That is, this is the best biological moment for surgery without great risk of bleeding. This fact was only confirmed in the 20th century, when doctors began to study coagulation factors. Before that, no one could explain why the 8th day was chosen for circumcision. How could the Bible contain such precise medical instruction without scientific knowledge of the time? Are there other biblical principles that still need to be rediscovered by science? The answer may be closer than we imagine. Have you noticed how our emotional state directly affects our health? Today, science proves that stress, anxiety, and sadness can weaken the immune system and increase the risk of various diseases. But this connection between mind and body has been in the Bible thousands of years ago. Proverbs 17:22 states, "The cheerful heart is a good medicine, but the slaughtered spirit dries the bones." This is an impressive statement, as modern research shows that joy and positive thoughts stimulate endorphins production and strengthen mental and physical health. Psychosomatic medicine, which studies how emotions influence the body, only began to develop recently. However, the Bible already taught that cultivating joy, gratitude, and peace has a direct impact on the vitality of the human being. If you want to improve your health and take care of food and exercise, you also need to feed your mind with positive thoughts and faith. After all, if even science recognizes that a cheerful heart is a true medicine, why not apply this wisdom in everyday life? These days, we understand the importance of isolation to contain contagious diseases. But did you know that this principle had been in the Bible thousands of years ago? In Leviticus 13:46, it is written that the person with a certain disease should live alone and be out of the camp. This is nothing more than a quarantine system, something that modern medicine only adopted systematically from the Middle Ages during bubonic plague outbreaks. At that time, no one understood the existence of microorganisms or disease transmission, but the Bible already guided this care. Today we know that viruses and bacteria can spread rapidly and that isolation is critical to protecting the community. How could such an old book contain this knowledge without microscopes or microbiology studies? This leads us to think how many other biblical guidelines are, in fact, scientific principles that we are only beginning to understand. Have you ever noticed how Genesis 1:1 and 2 describes the creation of the universe in an incredibly structured way? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was shapeless and empty. There was darkness over the face of the abyss, and the Spirit of God moved over the waters. If we analyze well, these verses reveal the 5 fundamental elements of the universe according to modern science: time, in the beginning; space, the heavens; matter, the earth; energy, the Spirit of God moved; and movement, hovered over waters. This structure is exactly how physics describes the cosmos. Science only came to understand that the universe is composed of these 5 elements long after. The most impressive is that this organization makes sense within what we know about the laws of nature and the formation of the cosmos. Did the creation account already brought a scientific view of the origin of the universe, even before we have technology to prove it? If this Bible introduction already reveals such precision, what else can we find out in the next verses? The order of creation described in the Bible in Genesis may first seem symbolic to many, but when we look closely, we realize that it follows a surprising logic. First comes the light, then the separation of water, soil formation, the emergence of plants, and, finally, animals and humans. Interestingly, this sequence coincides with what science suggests about the formation of the planet: first light and energy, then liquid water, followed by the formation of the Earth's crust and the development of life. How could such an old text follow this order without scientific knowledge? Imagine if the events of creation were described in a different sequence. This would make history illogical because, for example, plants could not exist before light. But the Bible presents structured progress, aligned with the basic requirements for the existence of life. This makes us think, are there more scientific layers hidden in this account? With each discovery, it seems that science only confirms what the Bible had been saying for millennia. Have you ever wondered how the Bible describes the day and night happening at the same time in different parts of the world? In Luke 17:34 and 36, Jesus mentions that, around him, some people will be sleeping night, while others will be working in the field or grinding wheat day. But how would this be possible if the earth was flat or immovable? Today we know that this happens because of terrestrial rotation, something that science has only been able to prove a long time later. The rotation of the Earth on its axis is what creates the cycles of day and night around the globe. While one part of the planet receives sunlight, the other is in the darkness. However, when the Bible was written, this concept was totally unknown. Many believed that the sun spun around a fixed land. But the biblical texts already indicated, in a subtle way, the idea of a moving land. How many other scientific details can be hidden on the scripture pages, just waiting to be understood? For a long time, humanity believed that the sun was fixed in heaven, spinning around the earth. But the Bible, in Psalm 19:6, describes the sun as a path or circuit in space comes out of one end of the heavens and makes its path to another. Nothing escapes its heat. In the past, this verse might seem like a scientific mistake, but today we know that the sun really moves not around the earth, but in a trajectory inside the Milky Way, traveling about 828,000 kilometers per hour. This discovery was only confirmed by modern science, proving that our solar system is far from static. The sun follows an orbit around the center of the galaxy, and this journey takes approximately 225 million years to complete. How could a text written thousands of years ago contain this information without the support of modern astronomy? If even the celestial movements were already mentioned in the Bible, how many other scientific mysteries may be hidden on their pages? Modern science has found that the universe is not static, it is constantly expanding. This concept was confirmed in the 20th century by Edwin Hubble, noting that the galaxies are moving away from each other. But did you know that this idea had been in the Bible for millennia? In Isaiah 40:22, it is written that God extends the heavens as a curtain and unfolds them as a tent to dwell in them. This description fits perfectly with the concept of a universe that continues to expand. If we think well, this notion goes against the thought of ancient civilizations, which believed in a fixed and unchanging cosmos. Only with modern telescopes was it possible to realize that the space is continually stretching. How could the Bible have this view without any scientific instrument? Does it have given us clues over the centuries about the structure of the universe that we are only beginning to understand? What else is still waiting to be discovered? Today we know that the number of stars in the universe is practically infinite. But this idea was not so obvious in the past. For centuries, astronomers believed it was possible to count all the stars in the sky. However, in Jeremiah 33:22, God already said that the army of heaven cannot be told, nor the sea's sand can be measured. Only in the 20th century, with the advancement of telescopes, did scientists realize that there are more stars in the universe than grains of sand on all beaches of the earth. With the naked eye, we can see only a few thousand stars. But with modern technology, we find that there are trillions of galaxies, each containing billions of stars. The most impressive is that this truth was already written in the Bible thousands of years ago. If science only now confirms something the scriptures already declared, is there much more to be discovered? The night sky has always fascinated us, but maybe it reveals much more than we imagine. Since ancient times, humanity uses heaven to measure time. But did you know that this idea was already clearly described in the Bible? In Genesis 1:14, God said, "There are luminaries in the sky firmament to separate day and night, be them for signs, to seasons, to days and years." This passage shows that the stars were created to mark time, just as modern science confirms. The movement of the earth around the sun defines the years, while its inclination causes the seasons of the year. Today we use calendars and watches, but the basic principle is still the same. Astronomical cycles determine our days, months, and years. However, when Genesis was written, this understanding was limited. Many cultures had inaccurate calendars, not understanding the true relationship between stars and time. How could the Bible contain this accurate information without the advances of astronomy? Once again, we see that the scriptures were ahead of their time. What else can they teach us about the universe and its order? Today we know that washing hands and bathing with running water are essential measures to avoid disease. But believe me, this practice was only adopted by modern medicine in the 19th century. Prior to that, doctors washed their hands on stopped water basins, spreading infections without realizing it. However, the Bible has already instructed the use of running water for purification. In Leviticus 15:13, it will wash your garments and bathe your body in running water and will be pure. How could such an old text contain this orientation without microbiological knowledge? Science only understood the importance of hygiene after the discoveries of Louis Pasteur and Ignaz Semmelweis, which related germs to disease. But the Bible already warned of the need for washing clothes and the body under running water, reducing risk of infection. If this biblical principle has saved countless lives throughout history, how many other teachings can still be applied to improve our health? What else can science still learn from Scripture? Genetic science has made surprising discoveries about the origins of humanity. Research indicates that all human beings can be genetically tracked to a common ancestor, nicknamed scientific Adam and Eva mitochondrial. This means that at some point all mankind had a genetic starting point. Interestingly, this concept has been in the Bible for thousands of years. In Genesis, we read that the whole human race descends from a single couple, Adam and Eve. Most impressive is that science does not claim that this couple was the only living human pair at the time, but that all modern humans genetically descend from the same ancestral group. This discovery raises questions. Does biblical narrative contain more scientific truths than we imagine? What if modern genetics is just confirming something that has been registered in Scripture for millennia? Perhaps we are just starting to decipher the secrets that the Bible has revealed for a long time. Are the Bible and science really in conflict, or do they complement each other more than we imagine? Throughout this video, we have seen that several modern scientific concepts have been present in Scripture thousands of years. From the invisible structure of matter to the expansion of the universe, the Bible has revealed information that has only recently been confirmed by technological advances. But what does this mean to us? Are these examples just coincidences or evidence that the Bible contains truths far beyond what we can understand? What if science is still in the process of finding out what the Bible has been declared for centuries? The invitation here is not just to admire these facts, but to reflect to what extent are we willing to see the connection between faith and knowledge? If you like this content and want to keep exploring the mysteries of the Bible and science, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and share this video with more people. There is still a lot to find out together. Until next time.